So in this video, I'm going to review the MagTame magnetic charging cable and the MagTame 3-in-1 connector. So maybe you have a cable that looks like this. I have a knot here. The cable's clearly been through its paces, and there's gonna be issues with this cable soon. Now this is my MacBook charger, but this happens to all sorts of cables, including cables in the medical device world. I came across this product. This might be a solution. First thing to know, this cable feels really nice. Like there's something appealing about this cable. I can't exactly tell you what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but I can tell you it has a really solid feel, good construction. I'm a fan so far. The way this cable works is actually a magnetic material here on the outside. So what happens is you get north and south poles on your cable, and when you bring it together, it kind of snaps together a little bit. Now it doesn't snap together maybe perfectly like you might think a spring would, but it does fit pretty nicely, and it prevents you from getting, those sharp points in your cable. So let me replace this real quick. Now, practically, I think there is going to be some limit to how magnetic they can make this for cost reasons, but also just for technical reasons of not interfering with the devices and things of that nature. But it seems to be a pretty good balance between, okay, the cable goes back to its original position, but as you pull it up, you don't want it to stick there. You want to be able to actually untangle it if you need to get that extra bit of length. But it does come back together. So I think this is going to be my new cable that I use for my MacBook. I mean, this cable has just seen better days. It looks terrible, and I just can't stand how this thing gets tangled up in my bag every time I use it. This cable is extremely organized. It goes back to its shape. Now, I actually prefer kind of a short cable because there's just less to get tangled up. But if you need a longer cable, you can actually get a cable that's double the size of this. So if you're worried about the cable length, just know there is a version that's twice the size of this. Another cool thing about this cable is you can effectively control how big the loops are. I mean, there's a lower limit. This is about as small and tight as I could get the loops to be. But you don't have to make them the size they come in the box. You can actually, completely unwind it. And then what you just got to do is decide how big you want that loop to be. And then you have to sort of let the cable follow around, and it, will get to the size that you want it to be at, which is pretty nice. So you can kind of custom make it as big of a circle as you want, which is nice. It's not like set how tight these circles need to be. Now, it's not magic. Like I said, it's not a spring. It's not going to go and just like go back to its original shape. You do have to take the time to actually wind it up, but it stays in place. And that's the key. I think the only complaints I've ever heard about these cables is, well, they don't go back to their original shape. Well, yeah, they're not designed to do that. They're not springs. They're designed to be put away and stay away. So the biggest issues with cables like this is, yeah, you can wind them up, but unless, they don't stay where they're supposed to be, they'll always unwind. So it drives me crazy. But with something like this, you could wind it up, put it in a box, it's just going to stay like that. In fact, they're magnetic with each other. So if you have more than one, you made them all the same size, you could just stack them on top of each other. So they do sell these cables in a variety of different connectors. I got USB-C, Lightning. They also have USB-A. So they have some different options out there. Now this product I'm actually really interested in, and there's a whole history of failed Kickstarters that tried to do exactly this. So I was pretty curious to see if this one would work. It's okay. The simplest way to do it is if you ever had a MacBook before when they had Magsafe, it's basically able to turn a USB port into what was similar to the Magsafe port, right? So you have this little USB connector here, goes right in to one of your USB ports. And now you're able to connect one of your USB cables like this, and you can undo this cable extremely quickly, making, I mean, the USB-Cs don't have this problem too bad. Obviously the USB-As are a little bit painful because, you have to make sure you have them in the right orientation. USB-C is not too bad, but even this is quicker than the USB-C. You just pop it in there, pull it out, makes it an extremely quick way to disconnect. Also prevents your computer. A couple times I've almost my MacBook's almost fallen down because the USB-C cord was stuck in there, got yanked, and pulled the whole computer down with it, threatening to, ruin $1,000 computer. So this is a pretty exciting product. I really like this. In fact, I really miss MagSafe. I'm glad they're thinking about bringing it back. But if you don't have Apple computer, or you have a computer like mine, which doesn't have MagSafe features, this is a great option to check out. And to be honest, one thing I really want, this company to think about is I'd love to see them expand more into the medical device market. I know there's some implications for using magnetics with medical devices. So, there's some things to think through there and some challenges to be met. But think of the cable management possibilities within the medical device world with something like this, which would possibly reduce device damage from all the cords that get yanked, from all the issues that happen every day. So pretty nice. Actually similar to the Microsoft Surface tablet. If you have one of those, it's pretty familiar to their connector, but it's an adapter that you can just put on. All right, so I've been using this new setup, this new MagTame cable with this connector for about a week now. And here's my thoughts. It's pretty darn good, and it's a lot like the MagSafe connector used to be on the old MacBooks. There are some things to be aware of if you're going to use it like this. Number one, it works best when you're able to support the cord on a table or a desk. So if you have a desk that you plug into on a power strip, or you're able to coil the cable up on the desk or wherever you're working, that's going to work best. If you're at a coffee shop or something like that, and you have the cord pulling on the connector at all, it's not going to be strong enough to stay in there, which I think is mainly due to the the thickness and the weight of this cord itself. Now, you wouldn't have to use the MagTame cable with this, and I think that could be a solution if you were going to work at a coffee shop where you didn't have a desk or something, or you needed a longer cable. You could obviously just unhook this, hook it to a traditional cord, and still get that MagTame ability where you can connect, disconnect real quick. So there are some trade-offs. It's just something you want to be aware of, that if you're going to use this cable with this connector, you want to make sure it's not too much of the cable isn't hanging off where it's going to start pulling on the connector itself. So working at your desk or something of that nature, this works perfectly fine, which is mainly how I've been using it. I did use it at a coffee shop a couple times and noticed that if there's too much weight pulling on that connector, it's going to disconnect and you're not going to be able to charge it. Of course, if that happens, you could always unhook it real quick and just plug it in the traditional way. So not the end of the world. It's just something to be aware of. But I can confirm that this thing stays coiled perfectly fine in my bag, comes out looking like this every time. So as far as cable management goes, I really like this solution. Some people might be worried about having magnets around flash drives or flash memory. Now, I thought, okay, how can I even test this? So I got out a USB flash drive that had information on it, and I just started to kind of create the worst case scenarios I could think of by getting the magnetic cable as close to that flash drive as possible, moving it back, trying to create some sort of loss of data. But you know what? I had no problems with that. The flash drive worked fine. I really didn't see any issues. One thing you do want to be cautious of, if you had the flash drive connected to a USB dongle, and you had that USB dongle being used with that quick magnetic connector, you could easily pull that out of the computer and then possibly corrupt your flash memory. So I do not recommend using that quick magnetic connector for a USB dongle or some sort of data cable. It can be used that way. It does work for data. It's just not how I recommend using it. I would use it for power primarily.